The following is a Bergen-Fischer media production.
Hey guys, you're listening to the In the Blood podcast. I am your host, AC Bergen-Fischer. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, whether you are a new or returning listener. I'd like to invite you to consider what is being shared with an open mind and a receptive heart. Before we begin, though, the following disclaimer. I am a coach, not a therapist. Everything I share is opinion-based and from personal experience. If you require therapy, I'd be happy to help you explore your options. For those who would prefer coaching with me, that can be arranged via email at inthebloodpod@gmail.com. Finally, if you'd like to support this project for as little as $5, you can do so by visiting buymeacoffee.com/inthebloodpod. Hey guys, recently I've been struggling with something. And I think it's something that comes up for most of us at some point. But, you know, it's one of those things where we approach our support system, maybe we do a little bit of thinking, and at the end of that process, I think more often than not, we're stuck with the original question we had, which is, when do we fight to hang on to a relationship? And when do we actually let go? For most of us, relationships are a complicated mix of emotions. You know, a collection of highs and lows that leave us at crossroads, wondering whether to fight for what we once had or to gracefully accept that maybe it's time for us to move on. Today, I want to look into the complexities of love, drawing inspiration from the personal experiences and the diverse influences that have shaped my perspective. My own life involves a mosaic of cultures, a smoky mix of South African, Paraguayan, and Canadian influences. This cultural diversity has painted the backdrop of all of my relationships, adding both depth and complexity. From a socially isolated and nomadic childhood to an adult life where I've forged friendships with people all over the world, every chapter of my life has contributed to my narrative of love and connection. Life rarely involves smooth sailing. I managed to weather the storms of a physically abusive childhood. I fought my way through too many moves, too many new schools, and too much estrangement from extended family. And just when it felt like everything had finally found its balance, my father passed away, which cracked the very foundation of my ability to cope. These experiences shaped my resilience, though, and it taught me that life goes on, even when it feels like it shouldn't without certain key players in it. On this podcast, I've spent a lot of time exploring the nature of platonic relationships, mostly because I consider them to be more substantial than romantic bonds. I value deep connections beyond the romantic realm, and this position does affect my understanding of when to fight for a relationship. My cultural roots play a pivotal role in shaping my approach to these relationships. Whether it's the warmth or brattiness of South African traditions, the passion of Paraguayan influences, or the open-mindedness of just being Canadian, each culture contributes to my ideas and values surrounding love. Now, having an understanding of these influences, I think, guides me in deciding when I should fight and when I just need to let go. I believe that Authenticity is the compass that steers me in any relationship. I've found that embracing my real, mostly unfiltered self is absolutely necessary. It's a delicate balance between holding on to what I care about and recognizing when letting go is the only way to preserve my own well-being. My exploration of religion reflects the evolution of my perspectives on relationships. From a strict Pentecostal upbringing to embracing secular Buddhism, my journey has been one of personal responsibility combined with self-discovery. My religious transformation has influenced my understanding of when to fight for love and when to release my grip. Calling into question everything I'd ever understood to be true at 35 years old was painful. The experience taught me, though, that it was actually possible to lose deeply rooted emotional bonds while growing stronger through the process. Anxiety and depression have cast a constant shadow over my life, prompting me to prioritize self-care as a matter of survival. Navigating relationships while dealing with mental health challenges adds so many layers of complexity. I've learned, though, that gaining a better understanding of my mental landscape is at the heart of beginning to simplify the question of whether a relationship is even worth the fight. Becoming a father after losing mine brought its own unique challenges. The cycle of life and death highlighted the fragility of the connections that I had previously assumed to be permanent. It taught me that there is a time to enjoy and maybe cling to a connection, but also a time to recognize when to gracefully accept that it's time to let one go. Being estranged from my biological family due to a mix of toxic dynamics and mental health struggles, the value of having chosen family has become increasingly evident. My best friend Jason showed up as a much-needed brother figure, and he demonstrated that meaningful bonds can be formed when we least expect them. Jason offering to be my brother when mine disowned me highlighted the importance of knowing when to fight for blood ties and when to maybe embrace supportive bonds with those who we choose or those who choose us. On this podcast and in my writing, I try to employ a spontaneous and heartfelt approach. This approach mirrors the spontaneity of love because love of any kind rarely follows a predetermined script. It reminds me that when facing the decision of whether to fight or let go, the authentic substance of the situation should guide my steps. As I navigate the crossroads of love, it's become apparent that there are no one-size-fits-all answers. Each relationship is unique, woven from threads of joy, pain, growth, and acceptance. But by drawing from our cultural influences, personal experiences, and making a commitment to authenticity, we can find a compass for making choices which we never expected to consider. In the end, it's about recognizing when to fight for the threads that weave us together and when to gracefully let go, allowing our relationships to evolve naturally. We need to allow our collective experiences to serve as a guide when we find ourselves standing at love's crossroads, uncertain, but ready to embrace the journey. If you've got thoughts on this or anything else I've spoken about, send me an email. I'd love to hear about it. Until next time, my friends, much love.